Hello everybody, welcome back to a brand new episode of F122, my team career mode here on the channel. I hope you're all having a great day. Today we head to Zandvoort here for the Dutch GP. Max Verstappen's home race. Can we see maybe an upset here with a Hamilton or Leclerc? Bottas, Russell victory here. Maybe even Sebastian Vettel going back to back after getting his first win of the season with the Red Bull Porsche team in the last episode for the Belgian Grand Prix here, as we are fresh off of double points for myself as well as our team at a tailport share. In the last episode there, we put Trackhouse in the points with both cars for the first time ever, and excited to potentially have the chance to do that again here today in Zandvoort. Now, an interesting one coming in Zandvoort here, as there is the potential in the race for rain. However, it's looking like it's more of a 50-50 towards the end of the race, where it might rain, but it also might not rain. It's definitely a possibility, but not a guarantee kind of situation that we're facing here now. As you can see, Hamilton, Verstappen, currently the two drivers that we're paying attention to, fighting for this World Drivers' Championship now, and Hamilton has a little bit of work to do still if he wants to get himself in the battle. It's not really a battle yet, and Verstappen has a comfortable lead over Hamilton and everybody else, but a couple of rough GPs like Verstappen's had recently, it will become a battle between Hamilton and Verstappen here as we jump through into free practice one in this Zandvoort Dutch Grand Prix weekend here now. And a very fun circuit to drive Zandvoort is. I felt like gelling with this track a lot more than I did last season. Last season was a throwaway event in this Dutch Grand Prix because we actually crashed in turn 1, on the exit of turn 1. It was 3 wide, I believe, some contact with Sebastian Vettel, and it might have been like a Pierre Gasly or something like that, but we ended up having a crash there, and it just wasn't a good Grand Prix. We actually retired early to save parts at that point as well. And speaking of saving parts, we have been lucky this season. We have had no durability issues with this Trackhouse car somehow this season up to this point, and hopefully it continues. I remember last season it was miserable at points, with our mechanical failures, with our Oscar Piastri teammate at the time, mechanical failures, and this season our car is the worst when it comes to the reliability, and yet we haven't had, I don't think, a single mechanical failure on myself or Porcher's car, which has been fantastic there. As you can see us ending in practice 14th and 15th. I don't know why it shows the team color as white in the leaderboard there, but then in the actual leaderboard on the screen when we're on the track, it's the blue that it's supposed to be. However, moving on into the Dutch Grand Prix qualifying here, and in the last episode we were able to advance both myself and Porcher into Q2, so things have been on an uptick here, an upward trend for Trackhouse Racing, being able to both get our cars into Q2, get ourselves both in the points, and hopefully we can get ourselves both into Q2 here today as well, and Zandvoort now as we were making our laps here in Q1. And my first lap here in Q1, it wasn't that bad, it was okay, needed a little bit of improvement. In a corner like this one right here, you can see I completely missed my braking zone up over the curb there, so that was a bit rough, but other than that it wasn't too shabby. We crossed the line there, currently P4. We do have to make another lap here now as we were getting ready for a run very late here in this session on this soft compound tire now, and you can see not really finding much time, actually in the negatives here now, still in the red now. Is actually, you see right there, we have an accident. My controller disconnected while I'm on my wheel. My game froze for a second, controller disconnected, and then I shoot into the wall. So I had my controller connected at the same time as my wheel was connected. The controller actually turned off and caused that right there. And I have a confession to make. We move on because I used a flashback. I qualify P14 in Q1. We move on to Q2. However, I feel like a flashback was warranted and necessary in that situation that I had no control over, of my controller literally turning off as I'm racing on my wheel, and that caused a stutter there. The frames dropped, and then of course it just shot into the wall. You can rewind it and see exactly what happened. So I felt like a flashback was warranted there. Let me know what you think in the comments about that one now, as I know flashbacks are a touchy subject here when it comes to Formula 1 career modes on the channel. But my first lap of Q2, it was P14, so a little bit of work to do. And here on the second and final attempt in Q2, we were able to advance again, both Trackhouse cars, back-to-back Grand Prix into Q2, and Porcher was currently in P12 here now, as I was about a 10th up here on my previous lap time, trying to find a little bit extra, and I know I was still leaving a little bit on the table, but I felt like overall I was putting in a pretty competitive time. Overall, we would find about 2 to 2.5 0.5 of a second as we came through this final banked turn here. Now down this front straightaway, it's going to be about 2.5 tenths. Yeah, right about there, 2.5 tenths, but it was not enough. It was P13, but myself and Port Chair, we would actually end up here P14, P15. So not the worst in the world, but certainly could have been some room for improvement there, as Pierre Gasly, Ricardo, Schumacher, as well as Stroll all eliminated. Let's head to the grid here in Zandvoort.
Welcome along then to the North Sea coast and to the Zandvoort circuit. We're 25 miles away from Amsterdam for today's Dutch Grand Prix. It's a race the great Jim Clark won on 4 occasions, leading for an astonishing total of 370 laps. Zandvoort circuit then, 14 corners, 10 to the right and 4 to the left, with plenty of steep camber and elevation changes to keep our drivers on their toes throughout the 2.6 mile lap. And watch out for cars making use of the DRS zone into turn 1 to attempt an overtake. Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks like for today's race. World champion Max Verstappen starts from pole position, and starting next to them is George Russell. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Hamilton, Perez, Valtteri Bottas and Norris, Sainz, Vettel, Ocon and Daniel Ricciardo, Mick Schumacher, Théo Pourchaire, Charles Leclerc, they've taken a grid penalty, Golden Boy, Stroll, Albon, Yuki Tsunoda and Kevin Magnussen, Latifi, Gasly, they'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty, Oscar Piastri and Guan Yu Zhou. And with lights out just moments away, it's time to go down to the track. Natalie Pinkham joins me once again in the commentary box. It's fantastic to have you with us today. I'm curious though, how do you think the drivers stop those pre-race nerves from becoming overwhelming when you're lining up on the grid?
Well, I imagine they'll be starting to feel the adrenaline as they anticipate the rundown into turn 1, a bit like preparing to go into battle. The unknown situation will bring nerves, but that's a good thing. It'll keep them focused on the moment and on their surroundings as we build towards the start of the Grand Prix.
An overcasty day here on Sunday, ready to go, green lights out from Zandvoort. You can see the strategy here was very simple. It was a medium to hard compound tire strategy. Leclerc, who's got a grid penalty as well on the medium to hard compound tires, and then the other drivers, a lot of other drivers, are going to be doing the soft to hard compound tire strategy. So one stop for everybody, and we might be racing to the rain. Now the actual race strategy did not say anything about rain. It showed it being dry the whole race. However, the pre-race weather said otherwise. Now, is this going to be lights out? We are underway from the Dutch Grand Prix. Max Verstappen, George Russell side by side down into turn 1. Russell might catch Verstappen off guard, take the lead of the Grand Prix immediately here into this first corner. They're wheel to wheel, but Verstappen has to drive off. He's already clear and away from Russell there as they come through turns 2, 3, 4 area. Now, as you can see, Hamilton settling in behind, and then you got Valtteri Bottas as well as the Alpine. This time it is Sergio Perez up there in the mix. What does Perez have today? Him and Ocon really scrapped it out there at the end of the Belgian Grand Prix in the last episode. Will be interesting to see what they're going to be able to do today here. As you can see myself, not the best start in the world for myself, but there's our teammate at Port Chair. He was briefly putting the fight actually to Charles Leclerc, but you can see myself right there just in front of the two AlphaTauris of Gasly and Tsunoda. So not the best start in the world as we would settle in though here in this number 99 Trackhouse machine. Zhou Guanyu at the very bottom of the grid now. Verstappen though, a clean start. We've been seeing actually a lot of clean starts lately here in this F122 My Team career mode. Some of the starts, most starts, we see somebody, at least 1 or 2 cars picking up some form of front wing damage, and then they have to pit at the end of that first lap. However, this time around, over the last, I would say, 3 episodes at least, it's been pretty clean here as we all come through down this front straightaway to complete this first in opening lap of the Grand Prix. So P16 currently. We had ended up only losing one spot on this opening lap, but Tsunoda sends one up the inside. He runs into the back of Albon and tore the end plate off of his left side of the front wing. I ran into the back of Albon. Fortunately, I got lucky, got no damage from it. Now Gasly alongside of us. I sail it way too deep into the banked corner, and that's going to open the door right there for Gasly to do a little bit of a switchback and get back past me now. But as this lap would carry on, we're stuck behind Tsunoda, who's got a bunch of wing damage and is well off the pace. Gasly is not pushing the issue too hard, but I'm going to push the issue, send it up the inside of Pierre Gasly. We're going to catch him off guard. We're going to pass him back up at a P17 behind Tsunoda, who's unbelievably far off the pace as expected with that wing damage. And I'm going to go around the outside of him here as we head up into that penultimate corner. So back up at a P16 as we were closing in on the end of lap 2. And as soon as we did that, we settled in. Things kind of calmed down, and we were closing in slowly on Alex Albon. It took us about 6 laps to get into the DRS range because, you know, you got to keep in mind that everybody in front of us right now is on the soft compound tire and behind us. So our medium compound tire, it's slower right now, but it's going to continue to get better and better, and we are going to have the advantage here within about 4 or 5 laps, I would assume. Now, as you can see right there, Lando Norris now trying to pass former teammate of Daniel Ricciardo around the outside in turn 1, and he's going to put that McLaren up the position and try to run down his teammate of Carlos Sainz here. Now, as you can see, myself continuing right about where I was a few laps ago, about 6-7 tenths of a second behind the Williams of Alex Albon. A lap later, all over the back though of Albon into the DRS zone, you can see he's struggling for grip, and these medium compound tires are certainly starting to become the preferred tire later in this run already. Now, around the outside there into the corner, now we have the preferred lane. We take the position up into P15 we go, and I knew that we were in the preferred position because Gasly no more was putting much pressure on me. So up into 15th place we go behind Lance Stroll and our teammate here of Théo Pourchaire. And actually at the conclusion of this lap, now up into the top 15, 10 laps in already. We are a little bit caught off guard with how many laps we had already completed in this Grand Prix, and seeing that they're still out on the track here on the soft compound tire, and realizing that they might be in a pretty decent position here if it starts to rain soon, because we genuinely didn't know when the rain was coming here. So, but thankfully there goes Pourchaire. He's going to come into the pit lane earlier than anybody else now to put on, I would assume, the hard compound tire. Now I'm actually right here behind fellow Canadian of Lance Stroll. We had cycled through into 12th place with pit stop starting to kick off here in these next few laps here now, and I'm trying to get a bit of a move on with it here now, and we're going to go around the outside of Stroll here on the banked curve, and thankfully it's banked because that's the only reason I was able to make a move like that there, and we were able to make the position at work and go up to P11. Here's another pass on track. Lewis Hamilton actually trying to go around the outside of George Russell, his Mercedes teammate, in turn 1, and it works. You can make the outside work there in turn 1. We've seen it a couple times already, and actually a lap later, here comes Valtteri Bottas now around the outside of Russell. So Russell losing some pace here as we close in towards the midway point of this Grand Prix, and he's now down to 4th place. Pit stops yet to start up front as we were now coming through towards the, like I said, halfway point of this Grand Prix. No signs of rain yet. However, we were being told that it was going to rain, and I was actually, look at my fuel, negative 0.10 laps. So we are short on fuel. I gave myself about 0.5 extra laps of fuel, and you can see rain is coming in about 5 minutes is what I'm being told by Mark. So it looks like it is going to happen. So I make a bit of an audible here, and actually Mark was the one that gave me the decision to go for an audible. We're going to lap 24 before we actually come in for a pit stop. Originally, it was to pit the same lap as everybody else's right here, lap 18, as Verstappen, Hamilton, Perez, etc. They would all exit in front of me except for Bottas and Perez. So I was currently in P4, just letting things play out here, hoping that the rain was going to start sooner rather than later, because now we also have a potentially major fuel issue here as we come through to lap 21. You can see Verstappen leading by 5 seconds over Hamilton. Bottas now, who just got past myself down into turn 1. Perez there in 5th place. Everybody is pitted except for myself at this point here. Russell, Norris, Sainz, Sebastian Vettel, as well as Esteban Ocon, currently your top 10. And Leclerc, with that grid penalty, has not really been able to make up a lot of ground here today. Ricciardo, Schumacher, Stroll, Magnussen, Gasly, our team at the Théo Pourchaire down there in P17. I don't know what happened to Pourchaire and Albon, but they were running a lot better earlier, and they are not running so hot now in the bottom 5. So I'm not sure, like I said, actually how they got there, but certainly not the last half of a race that they were looking for. As like I said, I'm hoping that the rain is coming, and it would be coming. Lap 24, the rain just starts to come down, and thank goodness. Now we are supposed to pit this lap, but I would decide to hold off because of the rain, knowing that we could potentially get to the intermediate compound tire. There you see a replay right there. That's Sebastian Vettel and Daniel Ricciardo coming together, and Vettel would actually have to come in and replace that front wing, so last episode's winner takes a bit of a hit there. Not the day he was looking for, but look at this lap 24 now. At the end of the lap, you can see rain certainly coming down here. However, I would elect to come into the pits because we'd actually been running a few laps in the rain at this point. It took till about lap 24 for it to really become noticeable, but the DRS had been disabled for a few laps, and I wasn't noticing a single deterioration in the track conditions or the pace, so I was in more of a convinced mindset here that the rain was not going to be enough to make this track wet before the race came to a close. So I make a bit of a risky call. We come out in P11. However, we have so much speed on this soft compound tire compared to the hard compound tires, and I don't know how we've played our cards so right with strategy here, but we have been just absolutely on it by being able to gain all these positions now back into the top 10. However, there's still one major issue. We are now nearly half a lap short on fuel. 0.40 laps short on fuel. That is, like I said, nearly half a lap. There you see it again. Now 0.41, 0.42. It is not looking very good for myself here. And I would actually start to lift and coast here for a couple of laps, trying to save fuel. It dips down into the 0.3, so we are making progress here as laps go on. Now, as we had a really, really quick car, but look at this, lap 29. You can now start to see the track is for sure getting wet. So now I'm realizing, okay, we are going to have to pit for the intermediate compound tires. And look at this, come to the end of lap 29, it is definitely getting wetter and wetter very, very quick. So as we came through to lap 30, I was now pushing the car to the limit here, trying to run down Charles Leclerc as well as Esteban Ocon. They are struggling hard on their hard compound tires, and now we are all over the rear diffuser of Leclerc, and everybody's coming into the pit lane here at the conclusion of lap 30 for the intermediate compound tires. So we're going to come in, and this is going to be beneficial for us because I was hoping this was going to happen, because when we're on the intermediate compound tire, we're going to be saving more fuel, quite a bit more fuel than obviously what I was capable of on the soft compound tire. We do have to wait a little bit extra right there for the Williams actually to go out in front of me, Latifi of all people. This is the first episode I'm recording since the news, by the way, came out of Latifi departing from Williams in real life at the end of the season. So rip go Latifi's F1 career there. As we continue to now lap 32, some drivers still just now coming into the pit lane here that were not able to get in originally, but Lance Stroll actually remained on the circuit. So he was on a medium, I think, compound of tire, and you can see, well, he was holding up both Ocon and Leclerc, getting the elbows out. We're slipping and sliding around there, trying to get past Stroll. All of us are trying to get past Stroll as quick as we can to gain the track position, but we still gain nothing at the end of it here. But Ocon is still stuck behind that Aston Martin. There's the door again open. I take it, and we're going to send one up the inside of Esteban Ocon in the Alpine here, and then I'm going to try and send one up the inside here of Stroll. That was a risky move. He could have easily chopped my nose and potentially crashed me out of the race right there, but we move up into P9 briefly here. But the fuel situation, it is improving, but it's still not a perfect one. We are still projected to run out of fuel. You can see in the bottom right there, the red fuel light has come on, and as we were coming through to the final 2 laps of this Grand Prix, Esteban Ocon actually all over my rear gearbox is going to get alongside us, pass us easily there, and as we drop down now into P10, unfortunately there, trying to hold off Daniel Ricciardo for one single point. Look at this, 0.16 laps short on fuel, so we are saving a lot of fuel. However, as we came through to start the final lap, it's been a dominant day for Max Verstappen. Lewis Hamilton up there in second, Bottas in third. Not a whole lot's happened up front, but we are still short by 0.14 laps. If we run the same lap that we did last time, we are going to run out of fuel. So immediately I realized we have to lift and coast. So little brake as possible, no throttle until absolutely necessary. Look at that, we nearly get down into the single-digit numbers in terms of how short on fuel we are as we continue to try and save here. Now through this downhill section, this is a good opportunity actually for me to save fuel and continue a forward-moving momentum in front of Ricciardo, who is now all over the back of myself, but we are continuing to trend in the right direction here. Now Ricciardo bravely looks up the inside, not able to capitalize on it. Max Verstappen wins, like we said, in dominant fashion here in Zandvoort, and look how close that field is as we were coming coming through to the final couple of corners, it was still right on the fine line through the penultimate turn. 0.01 to the good now, so it's going to be right down to the end here, and if low fuel mode is probably going to come on any second. It's going to be a drag race with Ricardo. Low fuel mode is on, but it's going to be P10. We barely hang on to absolute perfection. We save the fuel. However, we do not want to be in a position like that again where we have to save that fuel. It's been a while since we've gotten ourselves into that spot, but we do get driver of the day here in the Dutch Grand Prix.
A difficult race then on a circuit that demands complete concentration, but they've persevered to take the win here today. Natalie Pinkham, how do you think they were able to set themselves apart today?
Keeping the tyre temperatures up in the tricky wet conditions was really important. There's not much grip at the best of times anyway, and that's 10 times worse if you're on cold tyres. So the way they kept the rubber in its proper operating window is a big advantage today.
Red Bull put up an outstanding fight for the front position today, and it's great to see it paid off for them. They do so much for the sports that you can't
Max
help but be
Verstappen
delighted
with another win on the
race.
season, as well as Hamilton with another podium. Bottas on the podium again as well. Valtteri Bottas, not really a realistic threat for the World Drivers' Championship this season, but however, you still gotta respect the accomplishments his AI has had with this Ferrari team this season there, with the win in the Monaco Grand Prix, plus the multiple podiums as well. And the two drivers in the top of the championship, Verstappen, Hamilton, stand atop the podium once again. However, it's getting a little bit more weak of a battle between the two drivers of Hamilton and Verstappen if Verstappen continues to finish ahead there, as well as the fastest laps, or an extra point there in that case as well. And we'll take a look here at the standings now. No DNFs here today. Tsunoda and Latifi both finish one lap down, but there you see a 42-point gap between Verstappen and Hamilton. So once again, Hamilton needs to step it up. Mercedes is showing little glimpses of that they can bring the fight to Red Bull, but I think they just need another step forward in terms of the upgrades in the car, the R&D, and then I really think they could bring the fight to the Red Bull Porsche team. But ever since Porsche's come in, it's been a big help for not only Red Bull, but for Trackhouse and AlphaTauri, I think, as well. As you can see, us working on getting more upgrades to the car. However, that is going to wrap things up for us here today. In the next one, a very straight line, speed, important track. Thankfully, we are not going to be as far behind as we were in Baku, as we've made powertrain upgrades. So hopefully Monza does not go too bad. If you guys enjoyed, you know what to do. Like, comment, subscribe. Those would all be very, very much so appreciated. And I will see you guys in the next one, where we kind of kick off the final stretch of the season in Monza, then head to Singapore and Japan. I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a great day, everybody.